Welcome to the program, everyone, and really pleased to have back on the show Cara Atkinson, who is one of Australia's leading recruiters, focused on helping sales leaders build up top-performing professional teams across industries. And welcome back to the program, Cara.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here again.
Good to see you again. Oh, I should mention as well, Cara is also head of the SPARC network, which is a network for sales leaders to get together and share and progress their thinking and their careers and solve problems together. So I recommend you check out Cara's network there too. Cara, what I wanted to talk today about, when we last met, we talked about hiring top performers and recruiting top performers. I want to talk now about how do we retain and develop our top performers and build a top performing team. So yeah, love to know your thoughts. Where do we start with something like this?
I love to talk about this, and the irony of a recruiter that's engaged and passionate about retention. I get it, but it's definitely
you want lots of turnover, so you get another assignment. Is it? You're talking against your own interest.
You think that, but actually, if you've done so much work in the acquisition, why let it go once you get them in the business? So absolutely. The retention is as important as the acquisition. And for me, I see it really early on. You've just hired the person, they've signed the contract, everyone's cheering, we've got them, and then engagement drops off. They've got 4-week notice period, and typically 4-week notice period, and you don't talk to them again. They've signed a contract, you've courted, you've dated,
right.
You've all the dates, got them on the hook, they've accepted your marriage proposal,
yes,
and now you're not going to talk to them. So I think
is that a risky period? That period from signing to starting, do you lose candidates sometimes in that?
We've all been at the behemoth of the counter offer or the buyback.
Oh yeah.
And I think in that first 4 weeks after they've signed the contract, they should be getting a weekly reminder about, why have I made this decision? Remind me every week that I've made a good decision, because it's very attractive when I stay in my current business and I'm getting taken out for lunch and I'm going with old customers and, why don't you just stay here? What about we give you another 10, 20 years? Stay here. It's a real danger period. It's what I call the red zone. And yes, it's to be avoided, if you spend all that time bringing your high performer on.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I hired a senior sales director in my last job when I was with Targus, and yeah, I was conscious about this because he was very valued in his own company. And I remember I called him maybe 2 weeks after he'd accepted, 2 weeks before he was about to start. And he was actually with the CEO of his previous employer when I called, right?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, what was going on there was the CEO trying to convince him to stay. And he did tell me afterwards that me making that call made the difference to him, deciding to come with us, because the CEO is really pouring it on.
I've no doubt, Steve. The thing is, the current employer is now your candidates played their hand. So in your example of your senior sales director, if he was moving from like a national sales manager role into a sales director, potentially he's been talking about it in his performance reviews. He's been saying for the last year or two, I'm ready for the next move. His current employer is not giving it. Then he's signed your contract and he's played his hand to his current employer, and they've realised how serious he is about the move. And that's when things can happen magically, all of a sudden. And obviously there's stats around what happens if you accept your counter offer and stay on. It's never pretty, but if you want to avoid that whole problem for you bringing that person on board, then just get in contact with them every week, send them a text, send them an article, send them even an induction file, send them a folder, something. Just remind them of why they've made this massive decision.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's a really good step that a lot of folks overlook. All right. So there's that after contract period. Okay. Now they get on board. Where are we going wrong with the onboarding, and how does onboarding look in most companies?
Where aren't we going wrong?
Right.
I think, again, it's an area that gets outsourced to a different area. And so you expect your HR or maybe an ops team to have a really flawless induction period, and someone else is organising the diary and making sure those meetings are happening with the key stakeholders. But again, if you're setting your high performer up for success, it's something that you need to own. And the best analogy for me is it's the newborn attachment theory. You go and have a baby in hospital, you bring it home from hospital, you're not going to leave your baby lying there without anyone for a week or for a month or for a year. And there's so many sales leaders that recruit a high performer. They're maxed out on salary. This person's a gun. We all know they're a gun. This is why I've hired them. They expect those results to come in immediately to the organisation. And so they give the keys and they set and forget. And one of the processes I have around onboarding, once we've got a candidate on board, is we have a system in place that tracks how that candidate is on board on the first 90 days, what they should be doing as an individual candidate to get involved, but also how they're being onboarded by the organisation. And I would say 80% of the data is telling us that when issues happen and people make those decisions to move on or that it's not right, the fault is actually with the sales leader because they're not spending enough time with them.
Yes.
And there's this crazy stat that I think 80% of people, or maybe it's 90% of people, decide in the first 3 days if they're going to stay with you for longer than 12 months.
I can believe it. I've seen examples recently where someone's come in, they haven't got any clear direction in the first couple of days. They've been left to their own device. They haven't got a computer.
No business cards.
Yeah, they've come into some
car.
Like serviced office and no one tells them how it works. This is a specific example I heard of about 3 weeks ago, and they left after like a 3 or 4 month campaign to hire them.
Oh my God, that kills me.
Right. And all that work. And then the recruiter probably has to replace that person anyway, right? Everyone's got to do all this work all over again.
For free.
It's a highly risky, and I think younger people as well just will really they don't mind shifting quite quickly, right, and moving on if it's not right.
No, absolutely. Yeah, easy come, easy go for these guys. So they're watching every move, and the posts that always go viral on LinkedIn globally are the ones where their desk is set up with a laptop, with a hat, with a card, and it's such a small thing, but that is what that's what we go home and tell our partner, our kids, our parents. It's the stuff that makes us feel like we're part of the tribe. And why would you spend all this time recruiting your tribe and then the tribe?
Now the bar's been moved up with that. You see people posting that stuff on LinkedIn all the time. Oh, my first day at the new company. The welcome pack, and it's really cool.
Yeah, as long as you can follow through, it's not just the desk that happens on the first day.
We know that. So they say like the ping pong tables and all that's nice, but if there's not something behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's another thing to be said around expectations of new, particularly salespeople. When are they going to start to hit their numbers? And the most overused phrase in my world is, I want them, Cara, to hit the ground running. Hit the ground running. What does that mean? It means that they're going to do their numbers in the first quarter or maybe 2 quarters if they're lucky. And I think the best sales leaders in this country are the ones that have really clear expectations about how they're going to help them hit their numbers in year one. And for that reason, I have extended my guarantee period to 12 months, which is very abnormal in the recruitment industry, because if I'm recruiting salespeople and I know they're not going to hit their numbers for the first 12 months, I've got to put my money where my mouth is. And you have to onboard them and allow them the space to be able to go and get those numbers sorted. It is a long process. I think people think, well, I've brought them in at 150K. They've got to be hitting the numbers in the first quarter. It's not the way that it works.
Yeah, it's different by industry, and companies should have a good idea of that, right? And it's got to be probably the third quarter would be reasonable.
I think so. I also think there's a fallacy around if you hire someone that's from within your industry and they are a high performer, there is a very strong expectation from all parties that person will go and deliver the result again for you immediately. But what's actually happening on that person's side is they've taken one hat off, next hat on, and they're going out to the same customer group with a different spiel. And so that takes time from a personal brand perspective for that person to convey that message and for it to start hitting home. And so the traction can take time. And if they're not being onboarded or not having any time with you, that process gets expanded even more and more and more.
Okay, so after the onboarding, so there's risk before they join. There's a bit of risk after they join if we don't do some proper onboarding. Like, what does a proper onboarding look like, beyond the welcome pack? And how do we manage that ramp time as well, that ramp period, which is a sensitive period as well?
Yeah, I think apart from the welcome pack and getting to know who's who in the zoo is how you position that person externally. And I'll give you a really good example. I recently hired a sales director for a large ASX listed organisation, and they've got an amazing reputation. They are a market leader. And this person that we hired was coming into a permanent role. However, the first 12 months was going to be a mat leave contract, but they were hired permanently because we couldn't get them with just a mat leave contract. So we decided to make the permanent move. And unfortunately, the way that this person was communicated by his CEO was that he was there for a mat leave contract. And the reason that was explained that way is that no one wanted to upset the apple cart for that person that was away. But actually what it did for this person who was a high performer, we had to work our guts out to get him on board, was instant disengagement. He for the first time in his career being talked about internally and externally as the contractor was, I believe, a big error.
Wow.
And so you have to be really careful and agree with that messaging with your individual about how we're going to talk about you both internally and externally, because your high performing salespeople naturally want to get out in the market. They want to see customers, want to meet them.
Wow.
And so it needs to be done by as senior as you can get, and bring them into that conversation and set them up in the right way for success.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So now we're on board. We're performing. We've got our team going. So what are some of the things we're going to have to do to keep our high performers? And we know, other companies are going to want our high performers and going to be calling them, and we're going to pay them as much as we can, but maybe someone else can put some other carrots in front of them. It's got to be more money, right? So.
I think the minute you get into Dutch auction and around salary, you've lost the battle. So you have to be really inventive and innovative about how you keep your high performers without necessarily using the lure of financial rewards. And I go back to there's a lady that's amazing in this space around retention, Janine Garner. She's Australia's leading networking expert. But one of the things that she does is runs training around creating future leaders. And I think this is an amazing way that you can use, a really easy tip and technique that you can use in your sales team today. And what she talks about is exposing your team of high performers to business-wide problems, not necessarily a sales problem, but a business-wide issue that you're facing, whether it's a cost or logistical thing that's out of control, and allow that person the opportunity to work on the problem and then actually create a presentation or create a white paper around that problem and have them have presentation to the exco meeting. So even if there are a number of layers away from your senior leadership team, have them give them that opportunity twice a year to be able to present to that leadership table, because organisations, again, when there's so much red tape and bureaucracy, it's very rare that, let's say it's a rep or a BDM or a key account manager, are getting that one-on-one time with the CEO. So as many times as you can erase those lines and have that direct exposure is an amazing way to retain your staff, because they know that everyone wants to be on someone's radar.
Sure.
And giving them exposure to something that's more broad than a sales issue or a customer issue allows them to bring all their strengths to the table. It's a really cool way to bed them in.
Yeah, I like it. It's a low cost, high impact, and a lot of benefit for that person, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to watch a little bit. Obviously, if they've come up with an amazing solution and then the company doesn't do anything with it, then that's a whole nother struggle that it can come up in an interview process.
Set the right expectation.
You do.
Yes.
So what is this going to do, and how are we going to move with this message? But I think having that direct exposure, and I mean, I've seen other great things, CEOs jumping into the car for a ride along with the rep, but also having one-on-one time, taking them to a lunch and all that stuff. That stuff for, you know, anyone under 40 really seems to matter. That's the stuff they talk about in an interview.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what are some other things sales leaders can do to retain?
Recognition is huge. I think, you know, there's a real tendency with our high performers to leave them alone because they're amazing. And my belief is actually you need to spend more time with them than the person that's the victim in the corner that's just not doing anything for you. The high performers, you know, have some ego with it and need their ego stroked. They love recognition. And to do that informally and formally as many times as you can will continue to bed them into the organisation. You know, I just interviewed someone yesterday who is at the top of his game and is only in year 2. Is at the top of his game, is smashing his targets, is 200% above, making great money, the most money he's ever made in his career, but he's never felt more deflated. And he was nearly in tears at the meeting because he's like, I'm picking up everyone else's slack and everyone just expects me to get on with it. And there's a really high expectation now.
Yes.
But not once have they said good job. And like, it's such a small thing. Would we imagine with our kids, if our parents in the room, like, would we ever not say, well done, congratulations, that recognition?
Yes.
Happens to adults in our team, particularly sales performers, you know, high-performing salespeople. We all know the ego and arrogance that comes with that gig if you're a high performer.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though, we've got expectations of them, they're doing well, they look great, they look in command. Oh, they're making a lot of money. Like, what do we have to give them?
What else do you want? Yeah.
But they're people.
Yeah.
And if they're looking good, if they look professional, like inside, they're people, they've got feeling, you know, and they're going to respond well to that.
Yeah, there's that learning around the incentive program, sales incentive programs, and it used to be cash. It used to be cash was king, but now people are very much focused on experiences and creating that. Again, creating that culture. So, you know, for example, when I place a candidate or I get a referral from someone, I send out gold class cinema tickets, and people often will text me photos of them being at gold class with their partner.
Right.
It's an experience, and I never knew it would have as much cut through for something that's very inexpensive for me. But they get to take their partner on a date and go to gold class, and I'm somehow part of their date and want some weird threesome situation. I'm there with them. So experience is a key now. Cash is, the bonuses are an expectation. Everyone should be getting that. But experiences are not expected and therefore remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's about experience, the culture in the team, recognition.
Yeah.
And
recognition publicly too, Steve. You know, I don't see many. We talk about what sales leaders are doing and not doing socially, and you know, the sales leader that puts a photo of their high performer goes, this person just brought this customer on board, or just, you know, so proud of what this person's done and what they've achieved, and tag them and give them their moment in the sun publicly on a platform like LinkedIn. I don't think there's any money in the world that could replicate that moment, that
absolutely
person.
No, and just being able to share that limelight and give someone the platform. I've seen it work where I saw a sales leader do that. One of their people had won some big award, like the Asia Pacific Rep of the Year or something.
Yeah.
And next thing I saw was that sales rep getting interviewed on a podcast.
Oh, amazing.
They'd won that award and their boss had put them up on LinkedIn, and next thing, you know, like, wow, how connected is that sales?
Amazing. But also, let's equally not forget the guy that missed out on the award, you know. I think, you know, like obviously I'm a parent, so I go back to the parenting analogy, and 2 of my kids are amazing on the field, and one is absolutely not, but he tries really hard, and school doesn't give out awards for, you know, for all the kids that are not great at sport. Like, we're a sporting country, sport's revered. And so similarly in sales teams, I think, you know, recognising the guy that doesn't have a trophy or an award, but that consistently delivers the result and is just, you can rely on him and has been in the team, and he comes into the interviews and brings in new people for you, she or he, recognise that person, make it unexpected, put that person up.
All right, Carol, I'd like to link this back to recruiting. I know that you do. I know that you have quite a holistic view. So can you just link building that culture, building that recognition, building that spirit, how that works in helping you recruit people.
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's a client of mine that I've been recruiting now for 10 years, and I don't go out to market with their brand. I don't go out to market with their channels to market. I don't talk about their product. I don't talk about anything from a customer facing point of view. All I talk about to craft their story is the career paths my candidates have had in that business over the last 10 years. So when I can tell a salesperson that I put someone in this business as a field sales rep 8 years ago and now they're a national business manager, that arguably they wouldn't have had that same opportunity externally to the organisation, then that candidate I know is connecting hard because they can see their own opportunity there. So retention and continuing to build your high performers internally directly correlates to the impact that you'll have on the market when you're looking to build your team. Because word spreads, people get around, and even if you've had that person for a short time of 3 or 4 years, where they end up after they've left your organisation, I believe is a reflection on you as a sales leader.
Oh, sure.
And so there's so many ticks and so many boxes for both for your employee and for you as a sales leader.
Yes.
That it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned even if they go out of the organisation, because I saw myself as my salespeople's or my sales leaders' career coach, if you like, and even if their future was better in another division of the organisation out of my division, or even if it was outside of the company, I just didn't have any other opportunity for them to expand into and go the next level, I would proactively help them find that next opportunity, right? And then that person's always going to be an ambassador for the culture, and you become known as someone that, or a company that is...
I want to be on Steve's team every time. I want to be on Steve's team. Absolutely. So most sales leaders will go underground when they don't have the opportunity for them. Less said. The amount of times I've interviewed people that I've said, well, tell me about your last 3 performance reviews. What have you been saying in that meeting? What's been said to you? And either the person's not saying anything, waiting to be plucked out and being moved forward, or the sales leaders keep saying, just bear with us. As soon as something else happens, if someone dies, you'll get that gig,
right?
And you have to wait for this domino effect for you to move forward.
Yeah, possibly, Or like you say, try and find some projects. Sort of, you can't give them extra responsibility now, but here's some project that you can work on, or something sort of parallel, not necessarily up. Or go and you get some more experience in this group, then come back, and then you could move up later. There's lots of options to keep developing.
I agree, and sales leaders typically don't get there without getting some lateral moves internally. So being able to facilitate that as a sales leader is amazing for your employee from their career. Yes. So if they're a estate manager now, but they've never managed a customer relationship, potentially get them to go into that for 12 months and grab that experience and come back in.
Sure.
Now, ordinarily on paper, you'd look at that and go, well, empire building is where I need to be, right? Direct reports is where it's at. But actually, without that customer relationship, you're never going to progress beyond a state manager level. So, I agree with you, absolutely.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, what should sales leaders be doing? Like in our first interview, we talked about some sales leader being active on social. So what would you recommend sales leaders get on social and talk about their employees or their culture and what they're doing?
Yeah, I think every sales leader has the opportunity to be seen as their go-to authority in their niche of their market.
Yep.
And if you're only doing that internally and doing the town halls, there's a really big missed opportunity to create your own external personal brand, because without that, you're not going to be able to talent pipeline. You're not going to bring people on or retain people, because if you're looking at 2 sales leaders, let's say, again, war for talent, they're looking at 4 or 5 opportunities. The first thing they're going to do after I brief them, whether I give it to them directly or they go and find it their own mirrors, is get onto LinkedIn and have a look at your profile.
Yes.
If you've got no photo on there and you're not publishing anything and you're not sharing anything and it's just title and company, that's okay. But if your competitor has all of that and more with their achievements and what they've done and recommending their people, then you're going to you're going to go that way every time.
It's a missed opportunity, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And,
Yeah.
and most sales leaders' profiles are like that. You know?
Well, they are. So that's a big part of the SPARC network that you talked about.
Yep.
The network for sales leaders is that within the first 12 months, I want them to be the go-to market, the go-to authority in their market. And, the social proof thing is a crazy thing. Like, it wasn't around 10 years ago. We didn't need to do that. People just knew us. And the amount of people that I've interviewed over and over again that go, I've never had to put a resume together. I've always been shoulder tapped. It's not the world that we live in today, and social proof is kind of everything, and you need to have that within your toolkit of being a really effective sales leader. You need to tick the box.
Yeah.
Love it or loathe it, you've got to be on there.
Great. So, Cara, before we wrap up, any other final thoughts on retaining and keeping our top talent?
I just believe that putting your head in the sand and hoping that they stay is not the right approach. You have to know that your high performers are being approached on LinkedIn weekly, daily at the moment, and being open and transparent and authentic with that process. And like you said, Steve, whether it's right for them or not right for them, kind of being seen as that person they can go and bounce ideas off with is the right way to play this game.
Yes.
Because if you can't have the conversation with them, you won't tell. The first thing you'll know about it is getting the resignation, that little letter across the table.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, great note to finish on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cara. So just a reminder everyone where they can find you.
So my website is caraatkinson.com, or you've got the spark-network.com, and of course LinkedIn. Connect with me there. Really happy to talk to people about retention models that my clients use or different case studies around that, and how I can help make sure that they're attracting high performers and of course keeping them in the business.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks a lot again, Cara. I got a lot out of that.
No worries. See you, Steve. Bye.
And thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.